Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 224 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. And before we get to this week's guest, Barry Kerch from Shinedown, I want to remind you about the Mistress Carrie birthday bash that's happening at Rascals in Worcester, Massachusetts next Saturday night, September 28th. The party is 21 plus, presented by 100 FM The Pike. And if you're an Alice in Chains fan, you do not want to miss Rotten Apple, the premier Alice in Chains tribute band. Get more details and the link to get tickets in the concert calendar at mistresscarrie.com. At the beginning of the summer, Barry Kerch from Shinedown came on the show for a bonus episode to talk about the launch of the Shinedown hot sauces. Flavor number 1 was Symptom Chipotle Garlic. Well, since then, the band has released flavor number 2, Devour Pineapple Jerk, and most recently, the hottest of the 3, Attention, Attention, Mango Habanero. Now, Barry had promised me that when all of the sauces came out, he would come back for a full-length episode of the podcast, and Barry Kerch from Shinedown is a man of his word. My love for these guys knows no bounds, so I am so excited that he's back on the show. So, allow me to reintroduce you to Barry Kerch from Shinedown. Mr. Barry Kerch.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for fulfilling your promise to come back on the show for a full episode of the show.
I would do anything for you, and you know that. So
I know, but I don't like taking all of the favors. But you said when you got all 3 flavors of the hot sauce out that you would come on so we could talk about other stuff besides the hot sauce, but to talk about music and stuff, which is what we always do anyway.
We always sidetrack and go a million different directions, but that's because we've known each other for way too long.
You look like you're home in the drum room.
That is correct. Yes, this is my humble drum studio, my project studio that I play and practice out of when I'm home.
You got a whole wall. Are those all snares back there?
Yeah, that's part of my collection. Yeah, those are all snare drums, but it continues and keeps going. And there's, not to mention, half of my other collections at Eric's studio up in Charleston. So it's a problem. And now my wife gets mad at me if a drum shows up at the house. But
how many do you think you have now, if you had to add them all up? Or do you not want the evidence for your wife recorded?
No, because she can count. I honestly have no idea. Way too many, but snare drums are like guitars. Each one has a different sound, a different vibe. So that when drummers collect drums, it's mostly snare drums. That's kind of the signature for the sound, more so than full kits. Though I do have quite a few kits as well, but I have another storage unit that I keep them in because my house is actually relatively small comparatively.
I always ask guitarists if they have the first guitar that they ever had, like if the one they learned on. Do you still have your first drums?
I don't, because I sold them to get my second drum set. But here's a cool story. My second drum set that I went to, so I took my original drum set to college, and then it was time to upgrade. Got more of a professional style kit, and I actually still have that kit. It's the kit that I auditioned for Shinedown with years later. And on top of that, when I auditioned for Shinedown, I did the song Lacerated and I did the song 45. Those were my 2 audition pieces. And once they said, okay, we'd like to maybe have you in the band, but we need to see if you can record in a studio. So it was here in Jacksonville, went to the studio that no longer exists, brought my kit there with old heads, broken cymbals, but it's all I had at the time, and recorded a version of 45. I'm in the band. We end up going to LA. We start recording Leave a Whisper, get done recording Leave a Whisper. A&R guy at the time, Steve-O, says, you know what? There's something really special about that original demo 45. And so the 45 that everybody knows that you've played on the radio for many years is actually my audition on that drum kit.
The old beat up, like broken cymbal, old drum heads version is what's on the record.
And was my audition to get into the band before it was even named Shinedown.
That is so crazy. How did I not know that story?
I don't, because people don't ask drummers questions. That's why.
That's why I wanted you on the show at the beginning of the summer when you guys launched the line of hot sauces and Symptom Chipotle Garlic came out first. And I said, look, I want to talk to you about the hot sauces, but promise me you'll come back because Brent obviously has been on the show multiple times. Zach's been on the show. I was like, come on, I want you back. And you were like, nobody wants to talk to me. I'm just the drummer. And I said, no, I want you back. So that's why I'm thanking you for keeping up your end of the promise.
Of course.
And now we got the trilogy all done.
We do. The last one released today, the Attention, Mango Habanero. It's been fun. It's been an interesting journey. I never thought I'd be doing hot sauces, and it's something I would, when we talked before, it's a passion of mine. So to finally have them out there and to, let people taste them all and really getting to know the guys and ladies over at Torchbearer, it's been fun. It's been a fun journey. I actually went to their facility a couple of weeks ago and did a little tour and got to watch the bottling process of the latest sauce and see how it's all done in a factory setting. And it was a lot of fun. They're very nice people, very down to earth, just cool people.
I saw a video on social media of you and the guys doing like a tasting, and I realized I think I have Brent's palate, which means absolutely no tolerance. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, Brent is he is a wuss when it comes to spice. He just can't handle it, and some people can't, like yourself.
Yeah.
I am the polar opposite. I eat the crazy stuff and people look at me like I'm abnormal.
First of all, you named all three of them after songs, obviously, but you also found a way to combine a fruit and a spice. Was that the directive? Was that with all three of them? Were you going to incorporate a fruit and a spice in each one, or did it just happen to be that way?
It just happened to be that way. It wasn't an intentional thing, but the heat and sugar type things go well together because it helps tame the heat a little bit. And a good hot sauce has a lot of flavors in it. When you go back to like the old school stuff like Tabasco or Frank's, which are great and have their place, it's vinegar and peppers, and that's all there is to it. That this whole arena of hot sauces has grown so much over the years that to set yourself apart, you really got to start experimenting with different flavors and different things. And that's kind of what happened.
You guys released them kind of in conjunction to the 3 big long weekends of the grilling season. Not all of us are in Florida where we grill all year long.
There was a reason for that.
Those of us up north need a shovel to get to the grill in the wintertime, but we do it. But it's like prime barbecue season, like Labor Day weekend is kind of like the unofficial end to summer. Were you surprised by the feedback you got from the fans about how they were using the sauces on their long weekends?
Yes and no. One, I didn't read a lot of it because I'm the type of person, when I read comments on anything, I find the worst ones and it eats me alive. I cannot look at the positive, and there's a million positive and one negative, and then my day's ruined. So I tend to not look at it. So I'll go through, people at management and Rizzo and all these people that read it and they go, hey, there was this comment or this was made or they were talking about this. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. So it was more kind of, I guess I get it filtered out just because my fragile little sensitive self can't handle the negative comments. I'm done with that. I'm done with that side of social media forever.
What is it about you and I that are like that makes us like that? Because I'm like that too, that I don't know if it's that I'm amazed that someone wants to waste the energy to be mean, but it does bother me when someone really kind of gets in there to purposefully be cruel.
Yeah, I think it bothers you and I because we're nice people and we're also people pleasers. We like to take care of the people around us. We always do. You're always taking care of everybody around you. That's why you do so much charity work and with troops and everything. It's taking care of people, that mother fatherly instinct that's in both of us. And, you know, it bothers me because I'm like, what did I do to offend this person? What did I do to upset this person? And then I want to try to fix it. And you can't fix these things. People are just assholes. And, and there's nothing you can do about it. And they sit in their mom's basement and make comments. I don't know how people have that kind of time. You're obviously not working, or you really just hate your job and you just sit there doing negative stuff all day long. I don't understand. Why even bother going, I hate your band. Well, then why are you on our site? I don't understand. I have no idea. If you're into different bands, and you want to go hang out on Meshuggah's stuff because you're a Meshuggah fan, you're probably not a Shinedown fan, and that's cool. I don't hate Meshuggah for that. That's just your thing. But you come and hate on us. It's weird. I've never understood that mentality.
I try to imagine what it would have been like for me growing up, worshiping the ground John Bon Jovi walked on in high school, right? And imagining having access to like what he had for breakfast and the studio, like recording the albums and all of this kind of personal stuff. Like, I think I may have like crossed the line to stalker like level 10 back then if I had the ability to. It's so weird.
Yeah, and I think back then I enjoyed the mystery. There was a mystery around bands. They were scary. It was, forbidden by your parents, and there was this thing, you had the Wasp record, and they're wearing saw blades on their cod pieces, and you're like, these guys are insane. And you hear stories about them and stories about Ozzy and all these bands, and now gone is the mystery. We're all just, playing Janes, and I'd find that almost depressing in a way.
It would have been weird to see pictures of like Blackie Lawless wearing Crocs, weeding his tomato plants. Like, that would have been strange.
Yeah. Or when Danzig started coming out with his cat and hanging out with his cat, it's like, wait, what? This is odd. You're just a cat guy.
So the three hot sauces, Symptom Chipotle Garlic, and then Devour Pineapple Jerk, and then the new one, which is Attention, Attention Mango Habanero.
Yes.
When I hear the word habanero, I start to sweat.
Yeah. Well, you have issue.
You told me that Symptom Chipotle Garlic would be okay for me.
Yes.
My assumption is the new flavor, the third of the three, is the one that will turn my hair green, right? My hair green. Yeah.
This one's not for you. It's and what's funny is, habaneros are hot. I'm not going to lie. Habaneros are a hot pepper. In the hot sauce game, this isn't a super hot sauce. Like, for those that enjoy hot sauces, this is still very flavorful and a really good sauce. I didn't want to do, of these three, I didn't want to do one of those, hey, this is the devil's butthole ghost reaper that's going to take your head off. I didn't want to do that to our fans. And that's not necessarily fun to eat, right?
Please, I don't want to somebody name a band Devil's Butthole. Please.
The fiery place, I didn't want to do that. Now, I think in the future, maybe for this next record, because Vid and I and Ben and then all the people at Torchbearer, we had so much fun doing this. They were like, hey, maybe we'll do another one in the future. And so I think that one I'll make it that one of those painful ones just for the fun of it. And because some of those bravado hot sauce people want that. They want that super spice. And I'm one of those too. I like the crazy spicy stuff, but I'm definitely an anomaly in the world of hot sauce.
If you and I went on that Hot One show, I would be the one crying, curled up on the floor, screaming. And you would probably be the one that was like, yeah, that's pretty good.
I towards the end, I would have a hard time. In fact, recently, because with this adventure, I watched a lot more Hot Ones and just, wrapping my head around it. And I would happen to be watching it. My daughter got into it. And she's like, oh, this is a fun show. And she wanted to see some of the people that she recognizes doing it. And, it always gets to the bomb. And that's like the breaking point on Hot Ones, right? That's where everybody starts going, okay, now it's getting serious. And she's like, have you ever had that? And I said, yeah, I've had it like 20 years ago when it first came out. And one of I think you met Carlos Oliveras, that used to be one of our audio engineers way back in the day. He used to eat on his tacos, and he let me try once, and I was like, "Whoa, this is too much for me. This is too much. This hurts." And she's like, "So you have?" And I said, "I'll tell you what, we'll order some, and I'll try it again." So I ordered some just this past week, and we had a taco night. I made some fish tacos, and I tried it, and I realized that my palate has I think I've killed my palate over the years, because yes, it was hot, but I was fine. I was like, oh yeah, you've tortured your body a lot over the years, because now it was hot, but I dipped back into it. I was like, oh, this is pretty good. I'll try some more. So I think I'd make it just fine on the show, but I'd still be sweating and crying.
Did she get those genes? Can your daughter handle it?
Oh God, no. She has your genes.
Hey, wait, don't say it like that.
Hey, we all know that there's nothing like that there. We're family, but not that kind of family.
Now that I get you on the show, I get to talk to you about your musical upbringing and legacy, which is stuff that you and I have always talked about hanging around.
Yeah.
But it's never been something that you and I have been able to kind of sit down and go over when it comes to like how you became the drummer that you are. Because for anybody that's listened to the show, everybody's painfully aware that my musical career began and ended in the marching band with the clarinet in high school, and it never progressed anywhere, unfortunately for me. That's just all there is. But
there's not too many rock clarinetists, you know?
You know what? I talked to the guys from Set It Off recently, and they came up in the marching band playing clarinet, and we were joking about what it would sound like if you ran a clarinet through like a Marshall stack. Like, what would it sound like if you mic'd it and put it through all the effects pedals? It could be cool. We just don't know.
Could be. I mean, Jethro Tull made the flute cool, so you never know. You never know.
Heavy metal Grammy Award winning Jethro Tull, I might add.
Stay away from that one.
So when did the drumming start? Were you the kid in the diaper with the pots and pans?
I was. Unfortunately, I was that annoying kid that just could not beat on everything in the house with the pot and pan. So here's that. I started when I was 7, actually drumming. That's when I got my first snare drum for my birthday. My grandmother, whose brother was a jazz drummer in Chicago, nobody famous, just like a local drummer, and I never met him. She said, "You remind me of my brother." And so between my grandmother and my parents, got my first snare drum and some lessons. But at the same time, I have an older brother who's 6 years older than me, who's also very big into music. And at that time, he was dabbling with guitar. We were going to be Van Halen. And, you know, Columbia House was a thing at that time. So we're constantly getting cassettes to the house. And he was introducing me to music at a very, very young age. I remember I think I was probably 5 or 6 when MTV kicked off on air. And we happened to be in Wisconsin living with my grandparents at the time because my dad was stationed in Turkey. And so we're in Wisconsin, it's summertime, and he brings me to the house, and we flick on the TV, and we watch MTV, the first debut of MTV, Video Killed the Radio Star. I got to see that. And that summer we were listening to like the Go-Go's record, and we were listening to, who else did he have? He had the Go-Go's and one other tape and I'm blanking on what it was. Anyhow, so he was always introducing me to music. And, you know, it was my escape because I still am, I guess, kind of a quiet person, but I was a very quiet kid. I could disappear with my G.I. Joes and some headphones for hours. I was that kid. And music was kind of my escape, even though I had a wonderful household. It's not like I grew up in a bad place. It was just that was my thing. So I started playing drums, and luckily enough, even my elementary school had a really good music program where they had a little concert band, and I played snare drum in the concert band, and I played there. And then I went to middle school and marched, and then I went to high school and marched, and then I went to college and marched. I was the consummate band geek. I was drum major my senior year of high school, and very proud of those days. I had a blast, you know. Yeah, I'm a proud band nerd.
The marching band was a lot of fun. I just didn't have the aptitude for the instrument part of it, and I so wish I did. I'm glad that I'm surrounded by you guys all of the time because it's kind of like I get my fix without having any talent whatsoever. But it's so frustrating to watch you guys be able to compose songs and play live the way that you do and just know that it's just so not possible for me.
Well, you know, I think I get frustrated watching my guitar player and my singers, I can't sing. I do not have a good voice. I've tried. I've got a wall of guitars right over here. I can play maybe 3 chords, and I've tried so many times, and my drummer brain just can't wrap my head around a guitar. It just, as much as I love guitars and I think they're beautiful instruments and I collect them because I think they're beautiful, I suck, and I'll never be those guys.
When you're going up through high school and college and stuff, I was always amazed, and it was something I never really talked about on the radio show, but once I launched the podcast and could have like long conversations, I always incorrectly assumed that every musician could read music, and most of them can't.
Vast majority can't. It's
yeah.
crazy.
So when you went up through college, can you read music still?
Yes. Yeah, I still can. I still, there's a book over my shoulder here. I still work out of books and practice out of books, and I can still read music. And drum music is a little bit different the way it's written as compared to, say piano or something like that. But I can still read basic piano parts and basic, bass and treble clef things. My daughter's a pianist and a violin player, so I help her with her music, and I can very basics. But yeah, you had to read. And especially in college, you had to. I remember I was not the best student. I was only in the music program for the first 2 years because I had gone there on a scholarship to play drum set, and because I had a jazz band. And the summer when I was supposed to go, they completely fired the staff and brought in a new head of percussion, and they completely changed the program to go symphonic and marching. Well, that's not what I signed up for. I signed up for jazz and drum set. So I show up and I'm going to do the marching band, but the program really didn't even have a drum set thing. It was more, okay, you got to play marimba, you got to play your timpani, and you got to play. I did not want to do any of that. I wanted to be in a jazz program. And so I quickly learned that I was going to be a really crappy student. And I was. I was probably, and listen, the percussion instructor there, he came from the Madison Scouts, which is a massive drum and bugle corps. He's a fantastic teacher. It just wasn't the style I wanted to do. I was his worst student because I wanted to do something else. And then I started playing local bands, and there was college girls, and I'm trying to impress them and all that kind of thing. It was a different time, but it really, I learned that reading music is important in some respects, especially if you're going to make it a career, teaching and things of that nature, because you have to be able to communicate to your students somewhat. But in this world that I live in now, the rock world, I don't think any of my guys can read music, honestly. I think Eric might be able to read a couple things, but he's not a fluent reader. He's a fluent player. Zach can't read music at all. Brent can. And that goes to show that I guess it doesn't really matter in the rock and roll world. You just got to make a good song,
Well, I guess it's the same as a language, right? Just because you can't write it and read it doesn't mean you can't speak it. So
yeah, I guess it's more of a higher education thing, but it's not necessary.
You checked off both instruments that I think every parent fears if their kid's going to get into music. In my opinion, the two most painful to learn are drums and violin.
Yeah.
Like the devil's butthole level of hell. When kids are trying to learn, seems to be drums and violin. And you got both of them in the house.
Well, I'm not learning anymore, so the drums sound good. That's a bonus.
Yeah.
I feel bad for my parents, and there was many days, especially my father being the military guy. He would come home, and there was this news show called Crossfire back in the day that came on at 5:00. It better be silent in the house, and that's when I stopped playing drums. And you better let Dad have his hour, rightfully so. But it got to the point where we ended up building like these walls, padded walls about this thick, on casters, and put the drum set in the garage because they were tired of hearing the bedroom, and the neighbor was complaining. The cops kept coming by. So we built these walls to kind of soundproof it, and then they were making me stuff the drums and everything else because, yeah, it's annoying. And in the first, I'd say my daughter's been playing violin for 7 years now, but the first 2 years, there was times I had to walk away because it's a horrible sounding instrument when you're starting. Horrible.
I'm going to have to do some kind of a scientific deep dive into the correlation between the rock stars I talked to and the military parents that raised them.
There's a lot.
you were raised by a military dad. You are in a long list of musicians, successful musicians that can say that. Do you think there's a connection between your dad's military service, how you were raised, and where you ended up? Do you think it affected you in any way? Because it can't be coincidence that there's so many rock stars raised by veteran parents.
I think there is a connection in that growing up in a military family. My father was Air Force, so it wasn't as maybe as strict as a Marine Corps family or an Army family, but there was a strictness to there. His father was Army. My uncles are all military. It's a military family. So you grew up with structure. My mom stayed at home. We ate dinner at a table. You were home for dinner. We didn't turn the TV off, all those kinds of things. There was get your homework done. Here's your schedule. And I think that discipline gets into your instrument, and then you start playing that instrument and that discipline's there. So you get better at that instrument, maybe a little bit faster than others. And then you have the discipline of if you're playing in a school system, that kind of thing. But then when you get into the professional career, yes, we all fall in those traps of partying too hard, having too much fun in the early days of this world because it's so much fun and it's so easy and you're 20 something years old. But to get out of that, I think that discipline kicks back in. Okay, here's my daily schedule. Here's our radio interviews. Here's our meet and greets. Here's the show. I thrive on that. When I come home and I don't have a schedule, I pace the house till my wife looks at me and goes, go do something, please. Get a schedule because I need that. And I think that's what the military family brings is that sense of discipline. And also the fear of failure, but the fear of disappointing. That fear of disappointing your military father and your military mother is a deep-seated thing that to this day, when I go visit my parents, I do not want to disappoint them,
You've spent a lot of time with my husband, who's still military. And when he started seeing the behind the scenes of the music world, the first thing that he was like, oh my God, what is that? Was the day sheet that your tour manager makes for you.
Yes, I remember him commenting on that.
Oh my God, he still talks about it because every time we go to a show, he's like, what does their day sheet look like? And everybody's like, why do you want to see the day sheet? And he's like, no, look at the organization. And for anybody that doesn't know, the day sheet, you got, because you're in a different place every day, is basically from the time you wake up until the time the tour bus rolls out of town, your entire schedule, where you are, where you can get food, what time you have to do things, what time you go on stage. For somebody that craves organization, it's like heaven.
Oh, it's the best because I do crave organization. It is the best. And it's for like your husband, a military person, they go, oh, I get this now. There's a correlation. And even some of the people that work with us, like our tour manager, Ed, and our security guy, John, and our older security guy, Jake, all have military and or, John's Secret Service, which I would consider kind of a branch of military. They come in and they thrive in these areas because they take a bunch of idiot rock stars that maybe are a little bit hard to wrangle like kittens and can put us on a schedule and make our days better that way. And they fit in very well. And then I fit in with them because I'm like, oh, this is a piece of home. I understand. We have a communication here.
When you were causing trouble in the neighborhood, playing drums poorly, making a lot of racket, at what point did you realize you were good at it? Was there a song? Was there a drum fill? Was there an album you could play along to? Like, when did it stop becoming noise and start becoming music?
I mean, it's still noise. I am my worst critic, so I never think I'm that good. Or I've never arrived where I mentally want to be. But I think it started to come together when my mom would bring her tennis buddies over and go, hey, put on that, what was it, the Alana Miles song, Black Velvet. Can you play that for my friends? And at the same time, I think Billy Idol had that, what was the cover that Moni Moni? And, I was playing along to that and she would bring her friends over to hear it. And that's when I realized that not only am I making it through a song, but it's kind of entertaining. And I started at a very young age, even playing in bars. I was 13 when I started playing bars. My mom was my roadie, and she was the one that allowed me to get in bars because I had to have an adult with me. But I was playing in like cover bands and little jazz bands in the local bars in Panama City, Florida. So I started cutting my teeth pretty early playing out.
What was the first band name?
It was a polytactile jazz band.
That's a
And
mouthful.
it was a play on polydactyl means extra finger, so it was kind of a play on that. Yeah, and we weren't good, but we had fun. I think somewhere I still have a cassette tape of that, honestly, somewhere in my house.
It is amazing how much stuff we keep.
Oh, I'm a horrible pack rat, and at this time in my life, I'm trying to get rid of things, but I'm lucky that I have a lot of great memories, but I also have a lot of things that you just don't throw in the trash. All my old cassettes, I'm not throwing those away. I still have a cassette player. Do I ever listen to them? No, but they're still there and they're not going anywhere. All my old VHS, comic books, because I'm a super nerd. All my Dungeons and Dragons stuff I still have, and it brings me joy. With that whole Marie Kondo movement that happened a few years ago. Does this bring you joy? Well, unfortunately, most of the shit brings me joy.
Yeah,
so I get rid of it.
I watch people that are super minimalists, and I'm like, that would not bring me joy.
No, I look at Brent. He lives in hotel rooms and loves it. He thrives on living out of one suitcase. I would lose my mind. I can't even, when we're on tour, I don't stay in the hotel rooms. I go in, I take a shower, and then I get out and start walking around the city. I can't stay in that room. It closes in on me. I don't get it.
And I like to have my stuff around. I mean, you and I are both sitting in our respective creative spaces, surrounded by all of our stuff.
There's so much stuff in here, but then, even behind me over there, when we went and visited Iraq, I have all the things they gave us, the little plaque things and all the challenge coins and all the patches and these shadow boxes. That means a lot to me, but it takes up a lot of space too.
Speaking of archives and recordings, I have so many of them of me and you guys, including the phone calls when you guys called me from Iraq. I have that audio that I should probably get a copy of it for you.
I would love to hear that. That was a special time.
And obviously, more recently we dug into the archives and Brent and I sat down and did a deep dive about the Simple Man Day. And
legendary day.
Yeah, and I wanted to get your perspective on it because obviously Brent was shouldered with the responsibility of not screwing up the verses, actually singing. Jason, the guitar player at the time, was there. But you were in the studio, but you guys opted to play without percussion. You just came to hang out as you had before. So can you give me your perspective of that day, being there, being one of the people talking them into playing it? Because you're in the background going, just do it.
I think Brad and I both were at the time. Yeah. It's one of those things. So the way Shinedown started was so, I guess, not different, but different. We didn't grow up together. We didn't, cut our teeth playing the local scene. It was Brent on a development deal, looking to put a band together, and we all got in the band. And next thing you know, we're touring. So we were getting to know each other even in that early days of Shinedown because we didn't grow up together. And we didn't grow up playing covers together. There was no cover songs that this band had ever played together aside from that Simple Man because we had the relationship with the Skinnerd family at the time. And so when you asked us, hey, we have a bunch of guys coming in playing covers, acoustic covers, all of us kind of froze because we really didn't know any as a band at all, aside from that song. And Brent kind of didn't want to do it because it was a special thing that we did for Judy. So he was pushing back because he didn't want to, I guess, make it a big deal, but all of us knew how good he sang that song and it kind of made it his own. So it was one of those things like, and you were pushing us at the same time, like, come on, because you needed the content for the show, right? And I think the week before you had Zach Wilde on and he had done something really cool. So you were talking about that and pressuring us. Well, Zach did it. And of course, Jason, our original guitar player, is a huge Zach Wilde fan. He's like, we got to do something because Zach did it. So I just remember being in there and, at the time we're still, we're new. And we're new to radio. We're new to going to do these things. And these, I think that show was a little bit earlier in the day too. And at that time, I'm sure we had tied one on the night before.
Those early Shinedown party days are legendary.
I think I've forgotten most of them. They were special.
Yeah, they were.
And all I did was drink. I didn't partake in the rest of the stuff that was going on. Yeah, so it was a special day. And then, I think you didn't realize how special it was until days later when you started calling us and management was like, hey, this thing's blowing up. They're calling about it. And that's when we had to put it back on the first record and all those kinds of things. And really, because of that happening and because you forced twisting our arm.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It changed our trajectory because at that time we had kind of plateaued with that first record. And that kind of got us over that next hump to keep us relevant.
Digging through all of those archives that are taking up way too much space in my closets, when I went digging for all of that early audio, and, some of it's on cassette because that's what we recorded on back then, you guys are in a very short list of bands that I get very sentimental and emotional about. And watching what you guys have done, especially over the last couple of records, where you made that jump from playing clubs and theaters to arenas and amphitheaters, has been something that literally makes me cry every time I go to see you guys. And I bring it up because you have such a unique perspective. Your vantage point on that big drum riser, watching your guys in front of you, you get to see the crowd and the venue and the band in a perspective that nobody else kind of gets.
Sure.
How has that emotional experience been for you year after year, watching your vantage point from the drum throne change?
I've never really thought about it. It gets me emotional thinking about it a little bit. To know that we've been able to grow for 20 years, still be here, unbelievable. And to have that seat now, it's 20,000 people where I can't see all their faces. I can't see the back rows. I can't even see past the first 5, 6 rows, really, aside from just the sea of people and lights and the haze from all the hazers and whatnot. It's daunting, but I think the pressure gets more now. I think I feel more pressure now than I did back then. Back then, when you're playing the clubs and you're going through the club circuit, you're just having fun. And you don't worry as much because there's maybe 50 people in the room, maybe 500, depending on the day. And even when you got up into small theaters, it was still intimate. And now it's like, holy shit, if I screw up as a drummer, I can't hit wrong notes. If I drop a beat, everything shuts down. The pressure is even more because now it's 20,000 people and I'm going to be the idiot on that stage that screwed up and we're going to have to start the song over. So I think I put more pressure on myself to where I can't, if I start paying attention to, I'll pick a couple people out of the crowd, usually kids that are having a good time mouthing the words. Those are the ones I pick out. Or somebody who's really just having an emotional experience. Those are the ones I focus on throughout the show and kind of make a connection with. But like signs, when people are holding up signs, I'm sorry, I'm not reading those until I have a break because I will lose everything. Or, hey, I danced to my son's wedding on this one, or we played this at my father's funeral. That I can't emotionally handle right now because I'm just trying to get through this show and give you the best show I can. So it's kind of cool to see it grow, and I hope to see it even grow into stadiums. That's the always been the goal for Shinedown. And one foot in front of the other, we're headed that way. I just I think I become more just in my head as the crowds get bigger, because as much as I want to enjoy that, I need to focus even more on the show. And there's a lot more moving parts. There's pyro. I got to watch my guys in the pyro and these hits and cues and because I still start and stop every single song. I'm back there. Okay, here's my cue. This is what's going to happen. This is it. The jam's over. I'm starting the song. So all that pressure still lies on me. And so I'm kind of puppet mastering the show. I know what Brent's going to say. I know when he says this word, that's my cue. We're going to get into the next song. So yeah, I think it's become more daunting as we grow.
You've been in that chair watching the band from the very beginning. And obviously there have been some lineup changes along the way.
Yeah.
But talk to me about watching the guys evolve with the size of the venue, watching Brent become the front man that he is now, watching Zach become the guitarist that he is now. Like, being able to produce your own albums, watching Eric rise to that level now. Talk to me about what it's like to watch your guys rise to that occasion.
it's a huge sense of pride, especially seeing, even in the early days when Jason and Brad were still part of this band, watching them rise. Jason, still to this day, consummate rock star. I mean, that guy gets on stage and he just oozes rock star.
I just went and saw him a few months ago.
Yeah, he's still got that thing. And when he does the back bend with his fingers, he's like, that guy's just a rock star. And Brad, the way he stalks around the stage, he had this thing, but that wasn't day one. That happened over those first two records of them turning into what they were, and to watch that and to watch Brent kind of, instead of just jumping off balconies, starting to talk to the crowd and kind of figure out, okay, here's a segue, instead of what do we do next? What do we do next? Okay, just start the song. He kind of started to get that. And then we went through some hard times and things changed. But during that change, Zach had already been coming in a little bit, filling in for when Jason was having a baby or Brad was having a baby or something like that. He'd fill in. And then he was our second guitar player for a minute. And to see this kid at the time, I think he was barely 20 when he joined the band, because he's a generation younger than me. He was a kid, and he was just this excited little puppy, and he still is kind of to this day. I think the relationship between him and Brent is that old cartoon, Hey Spike, and Brent's the bulldog, and you got the little chihuahua jumping around. That's Zach and Brent. But so if I start with like Zach, to see him grow into having a lot more confidence. He wasn't confident in the beginning. And honestly, we beat him up emotionally early on because we were the big brothers, and still beat him up to this day. But we really put him through the ringer, both with Jason and Brad, and with with Eric. I mean, I remember when Eric came into audition, I don't remember what was said, and Zach would remember this because he remembers everything. But Zach tried to give him a one-liner because, now Zach's in the band and you're auditioning. And Eric came back with something so vicious, so quick, that it just put Zach in his place immediately. Zach's like, I'm still the new guy, So it's always been that, pick on your little brother thing. But to see him grow in confidence and to see him kind of take ownership of his own things and, to be able to go out on stage and sing a song himself, or, when the Smith and Myers stuff is happening, he kind of takes over the reins. I mean, it almost becomes the Myers-Smith show in a lot of ways. That's cool. Eric, to see a guy that reluctantly got in the band. So we had written a couple songs with him during the Sound of Madness time for Sound of Madness. And he was already producing, had a studio in Charleston. We just went there to write with him. And those songs didn't make the record. They didn't turn out the way we wanted or whatever. And we were a train wreck at the time. And so, time goes by and we need a bass player, and we go, well, that Eric guy is really talented and we'd love to have him in. And we asked him and he said, no. Absolutely not. I don't want to be a part of that. You guys are insane. I do not want to be a part of you guys. And we broke him down over time and got him to finally join us. And it's been the best thing ever. And then to see him grow as a producer and songwriter and, see him battle his own demons and to become a band of brothers and to be able to help him is a big deal, because he is, not ashamed to say he's got a lot of, mental issues with depression and things. And to be there for him and then kind of, I've always been the grandpa that takes care of everybody. So, and I still do. It's nice to see him grow into that and to see what he turns into on stage, his stage presence, the athleticism that he puts behind it, but also the musicianship of, here's a guy that's playing bass on stage and he plays bass with his feet. He's playing keyboards. He's playing acoustic guitar. He's hitting a vast majority of the high notes. He sings probably 75-80% of the set. He's singing along with Brent. So, that's a lot. That shows his ability. And then Brent, he's my ride or die. He's my guy. I will always back him up. He's always been there for me. He's always been, even when I think he's making the wrong decision, he's always proved me wrong. He's always got the best interest in mind. And even when I thought it was like, Brent, this is stupid. This is asinine. Why are we going to do this? And he does it and you go, damn it, you're right again. Yeah, it's just, damn it, you're right again.
So annoying.
It's really annoying. And to watch him come from this angry, bitter addict that was just self-destructive, and you've seen him at his worst a few times, just not a fun guy to be around. But you see that heart inside there of, he truly is the sweetest guy. His just Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, he was bad. And to see him go through it, almost die multiple times, hit rock bottom, literally hit rock bottom, and without anybody's help, even though we're all there for him, an addict has to help themselves, to see him lock himself in a room and come out on the other side who he is today and never gone back, you know. And even if you ask him about it today, I'm sure you've asked him about it. He says, well, I made it through today. You know, he's never going to not say he's an addict. He's a vicious addict. But to see him now become this positive influence and this positive influence on people and the, you know, working out and eating right and trying to make people feel happy. And then the shows are a positive experience for the fans. You know, his whole thing is, we're here because of you. We're here to entertain you and give you an escape from whatever's going on in your life for the 2 hours that we're out here. And he makes it happen, and he brings joy. You know, a lot of, especially in the rock industry, a lot of the bands, it's you mother effers and get up mother effers and all that kind of stuff. And that's fine if your band does that, but I don't like being called that all night long. You know, I paid money to come see you and be entertained, you know, unless it's something like, you know, I expect Marilyn Manson to spit at me. That's part of his show, but for the most part, I don't want that. And I take pride in watching this band give people joy. I think it's important, you know, to give people that escape, because it doesn't go past me, and I know it doesn't go past my band members to notice that tickets are expensive as hell, babysitting's expensive as hell, food's expensive as hell, parking's expensive as hell, and you got to take time off of work. Shit, that's a $500 night to come see us, all said and done. So I better give you the best show I can, which also goes back to my anxiety of not screwing up on stage.
And to go back to the social media, where it's also going to be caught on stage and end up on YouTube instantly.
Yeah. Those days when, you know, Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin was passing out on stage, it's not on YouTube forever. It happened and they talk about it, but it was never recorded.
I have to ask you about Spinal Tap, because they're making a new movie and we're talking about screwing up in front of everybody. What's your Spinal Tap moment on stage with Shinedown?
There's got to be quite a few of them. I'm trying to think of one. And I know there's got to be quite a few of them. There was one, where were we? We were in Europe, and we had been playing Germany. And I thought it was like the last show of the tour. And where were we? We were in a country just outside of Germany, but I still thought we were in Germany. And I'm blanking on what it was, but I still thought we were in Germany, because it was show after show after show. And they spoke German there. It just wasn't Germany. And at the end of the show, thanks for a great tour, and I love your German beer. And they started booing. Booing, because we're not in Germany at all. And I just like, why are they booing? And then Eric looks at me and goes, we're not in Germany, dude. And I just walked off stage. That was it. There's no coming back from that.
Yeah, when you're at the point where you're touring so hard, you don't know what country you're in.
Yeah, well, you know, I think Shinedown is known as one of the hardest touring bands out there. So, you know, there's days where you don't remember where you're at, you know, and there's shows I don't remember. And I'm sure there's other Spinal Tap moments that I've done. I mean, I've had things break and those things, but those aren't Spinal Tap. Those just happen, you know, or having to play. There was a show in the middle of winter. I was very, very sick with some sort of flu. Ended up having to get on IV before the show, had 104 fever, and then ripped that IV out of my arm, played the show, delirious. It was hotter than hell in that room, and then got off the stage and they put the IV back in. So, you know, it's those kinds of things that remind you that the show must go on, you know, no matter what, I'm not going to let people down. And those very few times that Shinedown's canceled the show, maybe because most, you know, the handful of times it was because Brent's voice, he literally couldn't sing, because that's the last thing we want to do.
Yeah. When you launched the hot sauces, you talked about the band dinners a little bit. And after all these years and the ups and downs and everything that's going on, I've never talked to another band that was so strict about like band dinners as you guys. That with all of the crazy stories, right, about Van Halen and bands that don't tour on the same buses and they only interact when they're on stage. I mean, Oasis just got back together. Who knows if those guys even speak when they're not on stage. But you guys make a real concerted effort to be that brotherhood we see on stage, off stage, even when no one's looking.
Yeah, you have to. You know, if we didn't enjoy this anymore, I don't know that I could go through the motions. And, you know, we still ride on the same bus together. I'm still in the same bunk I've been in for over 20 years. And it's right across from Brent Smith, because in the early days, When he was out of his mind addict, I would wake up at 5 in the morning and roll him over and make sure he was breathing. So I've stayed in that bunk my whole life. We truly are a band of brothers, a band of misfit brothers. And, when we do a dinner together, even if it's just simple catering and we sit down together, and it's not every night, it's not like, oh, it's mandatory every night that we sit together, but we try to quite often, or at least a couple of us. And it's a time for us to just talk about normal shit. We don't talk about business. We talk about our families. We talk about how exhausted we might be, or, hey man, I'm going through a rough time, or I'm going through a great time, or did you see that person last night that was in that crazy costume, or, that person that got carried out because they were thrown up over the barricade? We talk about just, normal day-to-day things, or, sometimes it's the crew's included with it too, because our crew's part of our family. A lot of our crew has been with us for multiple years, some 15 plus. They're part of our family too, and their families have become part of our family because, now a lot of us have families, kids, and they're part of the extended Shinedown family. And so you want to make sure you foment a good environment for that. And it's important because we're all pretty lucky and blessed to be able to do what we do. And it could be all taken away tomorrow. So why not enjoy it and make the best of it while we can?
When you're on the band bus and you are out on the highway in the middle of the night, you got to pull over either for a bathroom stop because there's no pooping allowed on the buses, or just because you need gas or like whatever. You go into those massive truck stops that have everything. What's the craziest thing that's ever been brought onto the Shinedown band bus that was purchased at a truck stop? Because you can get the weirdest things at those and the best junk food.
It's the best junk food. I'm a beef jerky guy, so I'm always looking for really good beef jerky. I think the craziest thing is we all bought outfits, like t-shirts, shorts, the works, and just wore those for the rest of the night. And I think one time somebody, I'm blanking on who it was, but bought like a onesie branded by the truck stop. It was just this onesie PJs, just comes stumbling on the bus in their onesie PJs. I mean, it's the dumbest things, or the stupid figurines, or the knives, those stupid knives that are, can never stay sharp, but they look like a medieval weapon. There's been millions of those on the bus over the years.
We're talking about Spinal Tap. What are the Shinedown go-to movies? The ones that get quoted by the band and the crew all the time. You can't get through a day without quoting them. Or the movies that always get played on the bus that everybody kind of agrees that, okay, this is what we're going to watch. Because a lot of people think touring is super glamorous, but after a while, you guys being on those buses together, just imagine being on a never-ending road trip in an RV with your family. Like, it gets like that.
Oh, yeah.
And so the inside jokes, the movie references, what are the Shinedown movies?
Anything with Will Ferrell is definitely going to be quoted at all times. Blazing Saddles, for sure, especially with half of the stuff they said in that movie. It makes it even funnier. So Blazing Saddles has always been something. Then a lot of it is comedy acts. Whoever's latest stand-up special, that's what it's going to be, because Zach and Brent are big into comedy. They're friends with a lot of comedy people and stuff like that. So it's a lot of comedy shows. And what happens nowadays is those will be the quotes. Whatever that new special is, whether it's Bert Kreischer or whoever, that'll be the quotes for that tour. But I think the classics, like Old School or Blazing Saddle, those types of things are the ones that always creep back in just because they're just classics.
The last few years, Shinedown has made these massive jumps, and a symptom of being human. And what that song has done over the last couple of years is just awe-inspiring. What's been the experience of the last few years that has stopped you and you gone, is this real? Hearing the song somewhere unexpected, a TV appearance, somebody showing up at a show that you didn't even know was a fan of the band. Like, what was it that you were like, is this real life now?
There's been a few things, it still seems like us, I guess because we're just so down to earth in a lot of ways. But there's been moments, for example, when Jelly Roll just decides to roll in at any time after touring with us and he just comes and hangs out. It's like, okay, this is odd, because he's bigger than life right now. Carrie Underwood coming in and hanging out and as a fan. was odd, and she's a huge rock fan and we knew that.
I didn't know that. So when I saw her backstage on social media at a Shinedown show, I was like, what?
Yeah,
I didn't know
I think
she liked rock music.
Did she sing with Papa Roach as well? I mean, I think she just did a song with them. So
yeah.
It's a huge rock fan. I guess when she's in her workout trailer behind her bus, she listens to mostly rock and metal. That's her thing. And then I said, cool. And then I think the thing that strikes me the most is none of that because, I appreciate stars. I could care less about stars. When we did the recent iHeartRadio Awards, yeah, it was great to run across some of these people and meet some of these people, and hey, I shook Green Day's hand. Who fucking cares? I don't care. That doesn't impress me. And maybe it's because, I'm a star too, and we all do the same thing. So I'm just glad and happy for your success. The thing that impresses me the most now is seeing 20,000 people with lighters in the air to that song. And what's cool about Symptom for me, going back to my vantage point from the stage, is for the first 3/4 of that song, I don't play and I get to watch. And that's rare for me to get to watch and see how much that song has touched 20,000 people night after night, 5 nights a week. That's when you go, holy shit, I got to pinch myself. This is weird. And then to see your friends and family when they get to come to the show in the wings on the side of the stage, or my parents, they always watch from the front, or my parents over at the front and see the smiles erupt on their face. Then you go, I've done something. Because I don't look back very often at our successes because we have so much more to do. And I think once you start looking back and start doing the greatest hits, maybe you've put one foot in, I'm not ready to put one foot in yet. So I don't look back very often. So, questions like that, I guess it takes me a while to process it because I don't think that way. But I would say that's the most important thing to me. Again, it goes back to the fans.
And that song is one of many that is helping the rock and metal community lead the charge in the conversation about mental health and suicide prevention, which if you had told me 15 or 20 years ago, or, the day we met, that rock and metal would be the ones leading the discussion on these really important issues, I don't think I would have believed it back then.
Oh, hell no. Why it became us, I have no idea. Maybe because we've seen a lot of it in our industry.
Yeah.
It goes across the industry, but the rock and metal community is a different tight-knit group, I think, more so than like the pop industry or the hip-hop industry. Maybe country. Country's pretty tight-knit. But they do more of the weekend warrior touring. They're home more. They tour differently than rock and roll. And
we're the misfit toys. Like, a lot of the time, the country fans are like the cool kids in school, and we're the ones that weren't accepted, and we started hanging out with each other because nobody else wanted to hang out with us.
No, it was the 100-pound cast out that was in the marching band, super geek, but was into Iron Maiden, I'm not hanging out with the football players. I'm not hanging out with the beautiful cheerleaders. It wasn't going to happen. And you find your lane. You find your little other friends that are in that same lane. And then, it's funny, and I think you might notice this too, as we've aged, and we're not old, but as we've aged, and I look back at those friends that were the popular ones and that were the cool kids. Oh, what a fall from grace.
Yeah. It's really crazy when you go back and look, that's got to be a lot of pressure, right? To be the most beautiful girl in school, to be the most popular person in school, to start out your life under that kind of a popularity microscope where you're afraid to wear the wrong thing to school. Like when you're young, that's when you're supposed to do all the goofy, stupid things.
Yeah. And I feel bad for them in a way for the beautiful people, because I bet they are tortured inside. Speaking of mental health.
Yeah.
Not be able to walk out and, I think of somebody like, I don't know, Taylor Swift or, the Madonnas of the world. They can't walk out of their home, the Michael Jacksons of the world. They have to look like that 24/7. I can walk out of my house, and I did today, and go to the grocery store up the street in shorts and a t-shirt. And the people there know who I am, the people that work there, because I've been going there since they opened 15 years ago. But nobody gives two shits. And I can just be me. I can be disheveled and in flip-flops and maybe, tired from the night before or whatever. I don't have to be rockstar 24/7. And I think that's a gift. That's a gift because I can be a normal father, husband, homeowner at home. I can be normal here. And then when I'm out being a rock star, that 90 minutes on stage, I'm going to be that character of myself, which is a total different version of me.
I can't let you go without holding your feet to the fire a little bit. Tell me what's
so nice.
Come on, I have to. I have to ask what you can tell me about the new album. I have to ask what you can tell me about the plans for the rest of this year and next year, because I know that there's not downtime. You guys are working on the record, and that next year and probably 2026, Brent hinted to it the last time he was on the show, that you guys have already laid the plans. I'm just asking you to tell me everything. That's all.
If I knew everything, that means Brent communicated well with me, and he doesn't when we're not together. No, so we have been working on the record, and we're pretty far into it at this point. I think I've recorded already 6 songs for my parts that are, so those songs are close to being done, and we've got a few more to do, but I've got demos of some other ones that I've got to go in and do. I was supposed to maybe go this week and work on one, but it didn't work out for Eric's schedule. So we're really far into the record. And I'm very excited about it. It's going to sound like Shinedown because you can't change Brent's voice, but there's some different things on there. And I can tell you that this one isn't going to be one of those. It's going to be a collection of songs, which we're excited about. It's not going to be a concept kind of thing and go from A to B. It's just going to be song, 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 which we haven't done in a minute. And I'm kind of excited about that because that's just kind of a classic rock style record. And there's some different things on there that I find enjoyable, as we always do in Shinedown. And then I think you will hear music this year. At some point, there will be new music this year. Maybe a couple things. New record, first quarter next year is my guess, if things go as smooth as they are now. We're going to be touring heavily next year. I think it starts probably, let's say, March-ish. And then I won't see my home probably until Christmas. So, next year we'll tour heavily. There will be some international as well. I'm already putting my big boy pants on and trying to get mentally prepared for that kind of touring again because it's been a minute.
And you got to remember what country you're in.
That's why they don't give me the mic anymore. That's why I don't have a microphone. They make fun of me on stage and everything else, and I just sit there and take it because I've burnt my privileges.
I love the fact now that when you guys are at Eric's house in his studio working on the record, that you can hear me on the radio because I'm on the station in Charleston now. Did you know that?
I didn't know that, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing about radio now is how many of your generation, the real jocks that have been on radio for a while, now just have multiple markets. They just been, my brother being one, because my brother's a radio guy and he's on in San Diego. He's a Florida guy on in San Diego. It's just weird how the way the industry's changed over the years, and for better or for worse. We'll get started on. Yeah, no,
look. We're just trying to adapt to the technology changes, which is what everybody's doing. You guys too.
Yeah, it's technology is getting faster and faster daily, and it gets harder and harder to keep up with, and we have to. If you want to stay relevant, you better keep up. Look, I'm the first person to say I hate social media with a capital F. I hate it, but I got to do it.
Well, yeah, not only do you have the hot sauces that is a passion project for you, but you've got Spartan Brews coffee too, which is a passion project for you. Like, you're involved in all of this stuff now.
Yeah, and I have to, and the only way to get it out there is to put it out there because these are smaller companies. Yeah, I mean the hot sauce thing is a Shinedown branded thing, so that's cool, and maybe it gets a little bit more attention and distribution because the Shinedown machine's behind it. But even with Spartan Brews, my coffee company, it's in stores in certain areas up by you, and it's doing well, and it's passion because I paid my way through college by working in coffee shops. That's what I did, and I enjoyed it, and I still do. And the thing I like about Spartan Brews coffee is it's just coffee. We're not being pretentious. We're not out there going, look, you have to have all this equipment and you better measure it at this right thing and you better have the perfect temperature. I don't give a shit. You can keep that in Seattle, and all of you little frou-frou wearing your penny loafers can do that. This is coffee with a rock star that just go drink coffee and enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy that we got to like actually hang out and talk music for a while today.
And I hope we do this in like person. That'd be nice one of these days. Like
it would be, but nailing you and I down in the same place at any given time isn't exactly easy, Barry.
Well, we're both busy people.
That's a fact. Yeah, that is a fact. But knowing that you guys are going to be finishing the music and hitting the road means I'm going to see you more often. So even though you're not home, it makes me happy that I get to see you in person.
That makes me happy too.
Aww.
So good. Always good.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Well, I'm glad that that everybody's happy with the hot sauces. They can get it at shinedown.com, right?
Yeah, you go to the merch section. You can get it right there. Go to shinedown.com. If you want to get a little more adventurous, you can also go to Torchbearer on their website and then check out some of their hot sauces too. I've tasted them all, and actually, I did do a hot sauce tasting when I was visiting there, and we did kind of our own version of hot ones, just tasting all the hot sauces, and may or may not have eaten things that should not be eaten by human beings. But I made it through, including this tincture of basically Ben, who's one of the partners in Torchbearer. He's kind of the Willy Wonka of the place. And he came out as we were tasting all these sauces and filming it, and he said, Hey, you got to try my tincture, my extract. And I said, I don't think I want to try that, Ben. He said, no, you have to. I said, Ben, I don't think I want to, because I had already done their 20th anniversary zombie apocalypse, which they make stickers that say, I survived zombie apocalypse. And it's been on Hot Ones. It's one of the hotter ones. And this is their 20th anniversary version, which is even hotter. And I had just gone through that pain, and I was like, I don't think I want to, Ben. He's like, you have to. And then I looked like I beat his dog, or he looked like it, because he was just depressed. He's like, you sure? I said, fine, I'll do it. He runs like a school kid, just runs into his office, arms flailing, just excited, comes out with this little woozy bottle of locally produced Everclear and whatever powdered peppers that he had put in there, scorpion, whatever. And it had been fermenting for like a few months. And he says, you just do a drop. So he comes out with coffee straws. And I felt like I was doing acid, right? Here I am dosing myself with hot sauce and put that drop on my tongue. And he's like, you taste the black pepper, right? And at first, it just tasted like heavy black pepper. Like you licked the pepper jar. And then it didn't taste like that. And I think I hallucinated. I definitely felt feelings I haven't felt before. It numbed your tongue. It turned off my salivary glands. Like they were gone. I couldn't get saliva to get this shit out of my mouth. It was so bad. And we didn't have milk. I had a cold beer right there. So it's not like we were doing I'm going to use dairy to get rid of this. You just had to suffer through it. So then I made Liam from management do it. And I almost got Sanjay to do it, which Sanjay doesn't do hot as well. We had a blast. So hopefully that video will come out at some point so you can see me suffer and sweat eating crazy stuff.
Well, I would suffer and sweat eating some of the Shinedown sauces. I look forward to watching you act like me and Brent the Wimps.
It happened. You know, there's a threshold for everyone. I think I reached it at that point.
Well, I know that as soon as you guys get music, before anybody else gets to hear it, I get to hear it. So I'll just sit here waiting to be able to hear new music patiently.
You're lucky to be in the inner circle.
I'm just patiently waiting for the new music.
You and me both. I'm ready to get this stuff out there.
It was so good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, of course. Are you kidding? You don't have to ask me twice to talk to you guys. I want to talk to you even when the microphones aren't on.
That's true.
But it does help when the microphones are on.
Yeah, it does help.
Otherwise, I'm in this padded room talking to myself, and that's a little cuckoo.
It's kind of what you do for a living.
I know, trust me. All right, honey, I'll see you later.
Love, all the love.
There he is, Barry Kerch from Shinedown. If you're looking for more details on the Torchbearer hot sauces the band put out, I put the link in the show notes of this episode. You'll also find the link to Barry's bonus episode earlier this year and a link to episode 189, the Simple Man 20th anniversary episode with Brent Smith. You'll also find a link to this episode's corresponding playlist I make a playlist for every full-length episode of the podcast that features all of my guest music and all the songs and artists we referenced in the interview. Plus, you'll find all of Barry's links, all the Shinedown links, and all the Mistress Carrie links, too. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday. Plus, every weekday, you get the sit rep. All of your rock news, music headlines, and entertainment updates in about 5 minutes. And you never know when we're going to release a bonus episode. Join me live every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern on my Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube for my weekly video show, Cocktails in the War Room. And of course, you can always find me on the radio. Get the details on all of that and more at MistressCarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie Podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.